You believe that you are the architect of your own life and that every choice you make is a product of your conscious will, but this is the first and most dangerous illusion of the human experience, because the truth is far more unsettling and far less comfortable than the narrative of free will we have been fed since birth. Most people live their entire existence inside a confinement they cannot see, touch, or smell, a structure I call the glass prison, which is not built of bars or concrete but constructed from the invisible mental scripts that were coded into your psyche long before you had the capacity to reject them. Look closely at the trajectory of your life and you will notice a haunting pattern, a repetition of outcomes that seem to defy your best efforts and hardest work, almost as if there is a hidden thermostat set to a specific level of success, happiness, and wealth that automatically shuts off the engine the moment you try to rise above it. This is not bad luck and it is not a lack of talent. It is the invisible script executing its code, a subconscious program designed not for your greatness but for your safety and survival within the tribe. The human brain is an ancient biological machine that prioritizes energy conservation and social cohesion over the abstract and dangerous concept of exceptional success, so when you attempt to break away from the herd, when you try to shatter the ceiling of your current reality, your own mind perceives this elevation as a threat to your survival and triggers a cascade of chemical resistance that you interpret as fear, procrastination, or confusion. The glass prison is the sum total of every limitation you have accepted as a fact about yourself, every silent agreement you made with mediocrity to avoid the pain of being different, and every definition of reality that was handed to you by people who were themselves prisoners of the same invisible architecture. You walk through life thinking you are moving forward, but you are merely pacing the perimeter of a cell that expands just enough to give you the illusion of progress while keeping you firmly within the boundaries of your programmed identity. The walls of this prison are made of your beliefs about what is possible, and because they are transparent, you do not realize you are trapped until you try to run fast enough to hit them, and when you do hit them, the impact is not physical but psychological, manifesting as self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, and a sudden, inexplicable loss of motivation right at the brink of a breakthrough. We are here to dismantle this structure, to examine the glass not as a protective shield but as a barrier that must be shattered, because the version of you that is capable of achieving the impossible does not exist inside these walls, it exists only on the other side of the fracture, in the terrifying and chaotic space where the scripts no longer run and where you are forced to navigate without the map that society gave you. To escape the glass prison, you must first acknowledge that you are in it. You must stop looking at your external circumstances as the source of your limitation and turn your gaze inward to the silent code running in the background of your operating system, realizing that the enemy is not the world outside, but the rigid framework of assumptions holding your mind in a state of suspended animation. This is not about learning new tricks or gathering more information, it is about unlearning the foundational lies that have formed the floor and ceiling of your existence. It is about recognizing that the safety you feel within your current limits is actually a slow form of suffocation, and that the only oxygen available to the exceptional mind is found in the vacuum created when the glass finally breaks. The architecture of your mental prison limits the signal you broadcast to the universe, confining your potential to a narrow bandwidth of experience that repeats itself year after year, giving you the sensation of time passing without any true evolution of the self. Deep down, you sense that there is something wrong, a glitch in the matrix of your daily life where the effort you put in does not match the output you receive, and this discrepancy is the shadow of the glass wall looming over your potential. We are programmed to seek comfort, to seek validation, and to seek the path of least resistance, but the hidden rule of success is that the path of least resistance is a circle that leads back to where you started, trapping you in a loop of eternal recurrence where you face the same problems, the same financial struggles, and the same emotional voids over and over again. To break this cycle requires more than just motivation, it requires a fundamental restructuring of your reality, a deliberate shattering of the lens through which you view the world, and this process begins with the terrifying realization that you are not the driver of the vehicle, but a passenger locked in the trunk, being driven by the ghosts of your past and the fears of your ancestors. The glass is thick, it is ancient, and it is reinforced by every society, every school, and every institution that relies on your compliance to function, making your escape not just a personal victory, but an act of rebellion against the very fabric of the modern world. The architecture of your mental prison was not built in a day, nor was it the result of a single traumatic event, but rather it was laid brick by invisible brick during the formative years when your mind was in a hypnotic state of pure absorption, downloading the fears, the biases, and the limitations of the giants who towered over you, specifically your parents, your teachers, and the society that demanded your compliance above your creativity. These scripts act as a sophisticated filtration system for reality, taking the infinite data of the universe and reducing it down to a narrow bandwidth that matches what you already believe to be true, effectively blinding you to any opportunity that contradicts your internal programming. Which is why you can stand right next to a life-changing opportunity and not even see it because your brain has literally deleted it from your visual field to preserve the integrity of your current identity. This is the biological function of the reticular activating system, the gatekeeper of your consciousness, which is programmed by these early scripts to only let in information that validates your limitations, meaning that as long as your script defines you as someone who struggles, someone who is overlooked, or someone who is destined for average, your brain will ruthlessly filter out the evidence of your potential while spotlighting every obstacle and every reason why you will fail. The glass prison maintains its structural integrity through the mechanism of cognitive dissonance, the intense psychological and physical discomfort you feel when a new idea or a new possibility conflicts with your deeply held beliefs, forcing you to retreat back to the familiar misery of the known rather than step into the unknown potential of the new. We must understand that the subconscious mind operates exactly like a cybernetic mechanism, similar to a guided missile or a climate control system, designed to correct any deviation from the set target. So if your internal target is set to poverty, loneliness, or mediocrity, any sudden success will be treated as an error, a dangerous deviation that must be corrected, leading you to subconsciously destroy your own progress to return to the baseline temperature of your life. This is the scientific explanation for why lottery winners lose their fortunes within years and why businesses collapse after a sudden spike in growth, because the external reality exceeded the internal script, and the glass prison contracted to snap the individual back into their assigned place. The invisible scripts are protected by layers of emotional defense mechanisms, rationalizations, and logical fallacies that you use to justify why you cannot do what must be done, creating a seamless narrative of victimhood or circumstance that absolves you of the responsibility to break the glass, convincing you that your stagnation is the fault of the economy, the government, or your upbringing, rather than the fault of your own rigid mental framework. To decode these scripts requires a forensic analysis of your own automatic thoughts, a ruthless audit of the voice in your head that speaks in absolutes, the voice that says, "I am not that kind of person," or, "That is just how the world works," because those absolute statements are the bars of your cell, cementing you into a fixed position in a fluid world. You have been running an operating system that was obsolete before you were even born, a legacy code inherited from ancestors who lived in a world of scarcity and immediate physical danger, and this code is now running on the hardware of a modern world where the only true danger is the failure to actualize your potential. Yet your primitive brain still treats a risky email or a public speech as if it were a predator in the bushes. The breakdown of this code is not a gentle update, it is a system crash, a deliberate interruption of the signal that tells you who you are, creating a space of terrifying silence where the script stops reciting its lines and you are left with the realization that you have been the jailer of your own potential all along, holding the key in your hand but refusing to turn it because you have fallen in love with the certainty of your own prison. This programming is so deep that it dictates your body language, your tone of voice, and even your micro-expressions, broadcasting your submission to the world before you even speak a word, ensuring that you remain in the hierarchy exactly where your script says you belong. To rewrite this requires you to bypass the critical factor of the conscious mind and implant new commands directly into the subconscious, a process that feels like hacking a secure government server, triggering alarms and defenses that will try to shut you down, but it is the only way to alter the trajectory of a life that is currently on autopilot towards a destination you never chose. Shattering the glass prison is not an intellectual exercise or a polite philosophical debate, it is an act of psychological violence against your own ego, a deliberate fracture of the identity that has kept you safe and small for your entire life, requiring you to murder the version of yourself that seeks comfort so that the version of yourself that seeks power can finally breathe. The image of the golden figure breaking through the barrier in your mind represents the moment of trauma that is absolutely necessary for transformation, because the glass does not break with gentle coaxing or positive affirmations, it breaks only when the internal pressure of your potential becomes significantly greater than the external pressure of your conditioning. This process is often excruciatingly painful because your current identity is fused with the glass. you have mistaken the limits of the prison for the shape of your soul, so when you begin to push against the boundaries, it feels as though you are destroying yourself, triggering a survival response that screams for you to stop, to retreat, and to settle. This is the great filter that separates the dreamers from the achievers, the willingness to endure the ego death that comes with stepping out of the script, the willingness to let the old version of you die screaming in the void so that the new version can be born in the fire. When you initiate this fracture, you will almost certainly experience a backlash from your environment, because the people around you are also trapped in their own glass prisons, and your escape threatens the stability of their illusions, forcing them to confront their own captivity and triggering their subconscious need to pull you back down to their level. You must be prepared to walk alone through the debris of your shattered beliefs, navigating the dark void where the old rules no longer apply and the new rules have not yet been written, a place of intense isolation where you cannot rely on the validation of others because they cannot see what you see. The breakdown of the invisible script often manifests as a life crisis, a moment where the old ways of operating simply stop working, where the pain of staying the same finally outweighs the terror of change, and in this crucible, the mind becomes malleable, hot enough to be forged into a new shape by the hammer of your will. You have to understand that the glass is held together by your agreement with it, by your daily compliance with the habits, thoughts, and behaviors that reinforce its solidity, so to break it, you must become a glitch in your own matrix, acting in ways that defy your programming, doing the things that your script says are impossible, dangerous, or not you. This is the hidden rule of discipline. It is not just about doing work, it is about consistently violating the commands of the weaker self, systematically disobeying the impulses that urge you to seek comfort, distraction, and social approval, effectively declaring war on your own biology. The fracture point is the moment you look at your fear and realize it is a hologram, a projection of the script designed to keep you in line, and instead of retreating, you step directly into the fear, using it as the fuel to smash the illusion, converting the energy of anxiety into the energy of aggression and forward motion. Deep transformation requires a level of intensity that the average mind labels as obsession or madness, but this obsession is simply the energy required to reach escape velocity, to generate enough force to shatter the gravitational pull of your past and the collective mediocrity that surrounds you on all sides. As the cracks begin to form in your reality, you will see glimpses of the world as it truly is, infinite and malleable, waiting for a command from a mind that is no longer enslaved by the script, and this realization is both the most liberating and the most terrifying moment of your life because it removes all excuses and places the weight of your destiny squarely in your own hands. You realize that you have been waiting for permission that will never come, waiting for a savior who does not exist, and that the only thing standing between you and the life you visualize is the fragile, transparent wall of your own limiting beliefs. Breaking this wall requires you to become something other than human in the traditional sense. You must become a force of nature, relentless and unyielding, willing to sacrifice your peace, your leisure, and your social standing on the altar of your ambition, understanding that the price of the prize is the death of the person you used to be. The debris of the glass will cut you as you exit, leaving scars that serve as reminders of where you came from. But these scars are the markings of the initiated, the proof that you paid the toll to cross over from the realm of the sleeping to the realm of the awakened. Emerging from the shattered remains of the glass prison, you enter a new dimension of existence where the atmosphere is thin, the light is blindingly clear, and the gravity of social expectation no longer holds you down to the earth, a place where the default setting is no longer safety or survival, but absolute, terrifying responsibility. This is the state of the sovereign mind, the mental framework of the elite few who have successfully rewritten their internal code to align with the laws of conquest and creation rather than the laws of submission and fear. In this new reality, you do not wait for permission because you understand that permission is a construct of the prison you left behind. You do not seek validation from the herd because you know that validation is the currency of the enslaved, and you have moved beyond the economy of feelings into the economy of results. The silence here is deafening because the constant chatter of the limiting scripts, the doubts, the excuses, the negative feedback loops, has been silenced, leaving you with the formidable task of broadcasting your own signal, of consciously choosing the thoughts and beliefs that will structure your new empire. You must now become the vigilant guardian of your own mind, watching for the remnants of the old glass, the microscopic shards of doubt and limitation that may still be embedded in your psyche, ready to grow back if you are not ruthless in their removal, because the universe tends towards entropy and disorder, and if you stop pushing, the walls will form again. The hidden rule of success at this altitude is that you must maintain a state of permanent expansion, never allowing your reality to calcify into a new prison, understanding that the moment you stop pushing the boundaries is the moment you begin to die. You are now operating with a new operating system, one that views failure not as a stop sign but as data, one that views pain not as a signal to retreat but as an indicator of growth, and one that views the impossible not as a barrier but as a problem waiting for a superior solution. The freedom you have accessed is not the freedom of leisure or relaxation, it is the freedom of power, the power to bend reality to your will because you are no longer fighting against the subconscious currents of self-sabotage that drown the masses. You have become an anomaly, a glitch in the simulation, a force of nature that moves through the world without the friction of internal conflict, and this lack of friction allows you to accelerate at speeds that confuse and terrify those who are still watching from behind the glass. But remember, the price of this freedom is eternal vigilance, for the world is a machine designed to put you back in the box, to lull you back into the sleep of the masses with distractions, entertainment, and false comforts, and you must wake up every single day and choose to remain awake, choose to remain dangerous to the status quo, and choose to live in the exposure of the open arena. The golden figure in the thumbnail is not just breaking out, he is being born into his true form, stripping away the artificial shell to reveal the raw, potent essence underneath, and this is your destiny if you have the courage to endure the destruction of who you thought you were. You are no longer a character in someone else's story, you are the writer, the director, and the lead actor of a saga that has no predetermined ending. The people you leave behind will call you lucky, they will call you gifted, but they will never see the blood on your hands from when you had to tear down the walls of your own mind. You must accept that it is lonely at the top not because it is empty, but because the air is too thin for the weak to breathe, and only those who have shattered their own glass lungs can survive there. Your life is now a blank canvas, and for the first time in your history, the brush is in your hand, the colors are yours to choose, and there is no one left to tell you what you cannot paint. The script is gone, the stage is empty, the audience is waiting in breathless anticipation, and the next line, the next move, and the final outcome are entirely, terrifyingly, and beautifully up to you.